Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Guyana. And thank you for having us in your homes this evening. We are yet on another Alliance on the Move. We have with us tonight Dr. Vincent Adams, Mr. Norris King, and our former leader of the Alliance for Change and MP, Member of Parliament, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan. Kemraj, good night. And how are you this evening?
Camila, I'm doing well. I had an enjoyable evening last night, and prior to that, I had a lovely time in the Parliament, seeing an exceptionally brilliant speech from opposition leader Aubrey Norton, condemning the manner in which a motion was brought to the Parliament in relation to our support for territorial integrity in the controversy with Venezuela. And so I'm doing well, and I am preparing for, I understand, your nice barbecue for a fundraiser on Monday.
Yes,
So
yes,
it
yes,
is
yes.
important that the normal activities, Camille, of doing your parliamentary work, enjoying your family life. It was my wife's birthday last night, and also ensuring that we do the organizational work on the ground, whether raising money via your event on Monday, and of course, talking to so many people as we've been talking to. And then coming on the Barbies program, uh, AFC on the Move, to talk on a number of issues with some of our executive members, Vince Adams and Norris, who will be here shortly.
Yes.
And so I am doing well. I hope that you too are doing well, Camille.
Well, yes, but before we go any further, I'd like to say happy birthday to Honorable Kathleen Hughes. Today is
Oh,
her
yes, yes.
birthday,
That's his birthday today.
and I just want to wish her happy birthday and may she enjoy this birthday and live to see many, many more. Yes, Kamaraj, I'm doing okay. As you have mentioned, the event that is coming up, the barbecue on the 26th, which is Monday. I'm inviting persons in the Georgetown area, Linden, over the west side is the best side, as they say. Come on down to the CFC and let's have fun on Monday. Yes, I am a little tired, but I signed up for this. I signed up for the political life, so that's it. When it's time to go, you got to go.
Oh no, here, let me tell you something, and that is why, you got to regenerate the energy that is required in political life. I learned that from our grandfather of politicians and the father of the nation, as I like to say, Chedi Jagan. And of course, Burnham even taught me this in my younger life, that you got to get the energy to do multitasking. You got to get plenty energy. Otherwise, it's not going to work and you're not going to feel satisfied. You're going to feel more tired and frustrated, confused and depressed. But if you really want to enjoy this thing, like I have enjoyed politics in this country, you really got to put the energy into it, but also
Yes,
enjoy what you're doing. And so I'm glad that
yes,
a number of our younger leaders have seen the need for this, the reason for this. And so we will get along very well. Um, there are a number of topics that we would like to talk about. We want to talk about the government's misspending of money, the fact that they
yes.
can't get Gaisuko going, and
Up
of
and
course,
running.
Vince will come and talk about this oil spill legislation, I am certain, and talk about how the government has literally sold out on our oil sector. I hope that he comes here shortly so that we can talk about that. But
But Kamraj, before we go any further, can you talk to us about what really went on Friday with that sovereignty bill that was passed or they tried to pass? I'm not certain that it was passed.
which bill are
Can
you
you
talking about?
talk to us? The sovereignty bill. What? Okay,
Oh, no,
just
no, it is a
tell us what
motion.
happened.
It
The
is a
motion.
motion where
Right.
the government of the day came to seek the support of the opposition to condemn Venezuela for what
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela has proposed to do on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Monday is or the 25th, sorry, on the 25th of
Which is
May.
tomorrow.
That is
Tomorrow.
tomorrow, which is to do kind of elections in the Essequibo region to get the governor of the Essequibo region and so on, and the persons who are now going to govern that area. And the government was heavily chastised by our lone speaker, that is the opposition leader, and chastised too because we all supported Aubrey Norton in his speech in relation to what they have not done and want our support. Look, a year ago, they came with a motion, and we supported that motion big time.
Yeah.
We all were unanimous about it. We made certain recommendations, one of which is to have this Foreign Relations Committee of Parliament to meet regularly so that the what you call opposition will be brought up to speed on all the developments on the border there, all the developments at the diplomatic level, all the development at what you call training our army and supporting the army with more monies to get more modern armory and all of that, and weaponry and so on. And a whole host of recommendations were made, and the government, to a large extent, supported that yes, these are recommendations we could work along with. And after that 1 year meeting last year, they did not in any way make sure that that these recommendations were put in place and implemented. Absolutely not. And so we had a huge problem now that they come back just 48 hours before Venezuela now going to conduct the elections in Essequibo for its governorship of the, as they call it, the province, the new
Ecuador.
province of Essequibo for
Yeah.
Venezuela. They come, that is the Irfan Ali administration, to Parliament to do all of this. So we had to say we can't be used and abused like that. We have to be together. This is an issue where the territoriality of Guyana, that is the borders and so on with Venezuela, we are all united over it. And we had to make the point that although we're not going to support this motion, we are all for Guyana territorial integrity and all for the
That's right.
sovereignty of Guyana. Guyana is
Yep.
83,000 square miles. And that border that is already done since 1899, which is now under the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice, we agree with it. As a matter of fact, we were the ones that first initiated that the matter go to the General Secretary to have it resolved there. And the
Right.
General Secretary was the one that then sent it to the ICJ, and we agreed. That is the APNU AFC government. Of course,
Yeah.
it was a long time in coming, but we managed to get it to the ICJ for the very first time sometime before the 2020. And so what we also did, and Camille and Norris, thanks for coming on.
Good
Um,
night, Norris.
yeah,
Welcome.
good night. What we
Welcome
also
aboard.
did, good. What we also did was that we arranged the legal fees for the lawyers who were going to argue the case at the International Court of Justice. $15 million as the signature bonus from that oil production agreement. Remember? And that
Yes.
$15 million was put in the bank of, in charge of the Bank of Guyana governor, a friend of mine, um, and he arranged that it goes into a bank in America. 15 million US dollars. But you know the PPP stay, they gone and say how we thief the money and we don't want to talk about it and this and that and whatever.
Right, right,
But we never
right, right.
stole any money. As a matter of fact, we ensured that a little bonus because we know that the matter is going to be very expensive. These international lawyers charge plenty money, like in the CGX matter. Bharat Jagdeo, they were in government at the time. They pleaded with CGX to find the legal fees to do the maritime claim against Suriname, and it come up to $10 million. And CGX paid them the $10 million for the legal services in the maritime tribunal and all of that. So we knew that this matter is going to go to the ICJ. It will require legal fees and so on. And we asked Exxon, and Exxon said, fine. What would be a reasonable fee? 15 million US dollars and so on. This government now, whilst the case is going on there, and for the expenses of traveling up the lawyers to that court, the ICJ, and so on in The Hague, all the monies they got and they now utilize it towards that purpose. But these shameless people, these people ain't got no integrity. They gone and say that how we had stolen the money and hid it and so on from them. And they gone and tell their PPP support bases all kind of rotten things. Thank God
Well, the
the
main
land,
person
the
they said was
APM.
Rafael Steele. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. And so this is what we had there yesterday going on, whereby we are telling them that, you're not being truthful. As a matter of fact, they are very much untethered with any transparency and integrity. These people are rotten liars, as it were. So we were telling them that, look, we are not going to support your motion. We're going to walk out on your motion, and to prove the point that at least we could walk out too, because they feel that they got us,
Yes.
well bound, because indeed it is a patriotic thing to go and support. But we had to tell them, you don't take your eyes and pass us. And that is why I supported what happened there yesterday, as against what other people might think. And it was genuinely to show what you call disgust and unacceptability on the part of the PPP in how it is doing its foreign relations on a matter that ought to be with the united Guyana rather than a disunited Guyana. And to that extent, we then made recommendations as to what they must do. Look, what you have to do in a matter like this is to train your little children and big children also into what is patriotism, the border, songs, this, that, so that they can have a patriotic sentiment. Right now, you go quarantine, no songs are being sung at the schools, nothing. And so you have absolutely no patriotism, no sense of nationalism. People like they don't care nothing. And this government seemed not to care anything. It did nothing to involve us in relation to the diplomatic efforts. I see today you got a set of congressmen out of India, led by Shashi Tharoor, coming to Guyana, going to Trinidad, going to Suriname and a couple of other countries to sell and promote why Pakistan, I think, did some terrorist activities in Kashmir. That is what you do. And Shashi Tharoor is an opposition parliament that is heading the team, because Modi wants a united trust in relation to
Front.
the. That is what we were telling Todd and the Prime Minister and so on. But they don't even want us to be involved. So that is what happened in Parliament there. A motion brought by Mr. Todd and the Prime Minister. And we had to say, well, fine, we support Guyana's integrity, but we don't support his government, and especially the manner in which it's handling the issue.
And nothing is wrong with
Good
that.
night, Dr. Vince. Dr. Vince, good night and welcome. At
Vince,
this
good night, good
time,
night.
I
Thank you,
will hand
Camille.
over to at this time I'll hand over to Norris, who is our moderator. Norris, over to
Yeah, good
you.
night. Thank
Take
you,
the floor.
Camille. Kamraj, on the issue of oil or oil revenues and the way it's being handled, what are your thoughts on that? Where is Guyana right now? I know we had put some systems in place um, so that we can have transparency, we can have better systems for the oil proceeds or benefits from oil trickling down to the average Guyanese. But
Yeah.
the advent of the PPP in 2020 saw a number of changes, right, to the formula that was established by the coalition, as well as the handling of legislation, right, so that they can have more access and control to dominate and do as they please. What are your thoughts on that?
No, well, I agree with you there, and I'm certain Vince can help me with the answer to this question. But they altered, in a very fundamental way, the Natural Resource Fund Act, and they have not established these commissions that that act provided for, like the Petroleum Commission, which is the body that is supposed to oversee how the investments are going to be made, and how the monies are going to be spent and so on. And they also are not spending the oil monies in accordance with a section that we have inside of that Natural Resource Fund Act, which is for developmental purposes and also for emergency. And it is for this reason that they simply take the oil monies and they use it for any purposes under they feel that they could spend it on. Whereas, and this is one of the reasons too, Norris, you must be appreciative of the development that Mr. Ram, Christopher Ram, has brought an action
Yes.
as to, right, what monies just can't be spent out of the Natural Resource Fund unless it is narrowly going towards these purposes. And they're
Correct.
doing for all manner of things. And the oil monies were not for that. The other aspect of the act that they changed and altered was that we had indicated that there will be certain percentages that are going to be left in a sovereign wealth fund. That not from the very first year, everything will go and so on and so on and so on. And they altered that to say, like, the very first year, they are going to spend out all the money that came in. Second year, I think it's about 95%, and then 90%,
95%.
and
Yeah.
things like that. We had wanted a sovereign wealth fund that is an account that we're going to put in an extra bit after you save some money. There was a saving aspect to it. And Bobby Sins must understand this. There's a lot of money we are collecting, billions and trillions, billions of dollars. And so we ought to save, put into the sovereign wealth account a certain sum. But also, in accordance with that Natural Resource Fund Act, spend the money wisely in accordance with what the act says. But they gone and, as I tell Barbicians, they bill away the money. They feel they got them now and they spend them as they want. And then they come this year, Borget.
Primarily
And
among themselves.
yes, of course, friends and family and so on. That is why the crony capitalist class in Guyana, the friends,
Crony
contractors
capitalism.
and so on, they got all the monies largely in their capital expenditure. And so it is fundamental that we understand it's a mismanagement of the monies, mismanagement of the monies. And then, especially for infrastructural works, and who gets the infrastructural works is a set of contractors that they know, and their
Yeah.
boys and their friends.
All
And that
right.
is what is
Thanks,
happening.
thanks, Camraj. Camille,
Well,
continuing
before
from there.
before before let me add to what Cameron said, okay?
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
Because it's even more fundamental than that. When Mr. Granger, it comes down to who makes the decision. First of all, what
Mhm.
we did, or Mr. Trotman, there was a bill. It was in draft, to form the Petroleum Commission. They lambasted Trotman, saying that he had too much power in his hands and all kinds of stuff. When 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 they took over, Mr. Granger had a commission. Well, not a petroleum commission, but in terms of the NRF, it was supposed to be like a 20-person group of people that represented every single sector that you can think of.
Correct.
That was what he had. When they come, they cancel it, and they decided to go with, I think it was a 5-man,
Nine
whatever,
man. Nine.
board.
But yeah, because I think
But yeah,
it
hold
was
on.
about
But here's
22
what
people covering different areas, nurses, soldiers, a wide, a broad base,
absolutely.
committee.
So guess what they did? They cut it back to this five-man team. Well, they agreed. There was an agreement, and Cambridge was close to this. They agreed that the opposition will have two members on that team. When the opposition put forward the two names, and my name was one of those, Cambridge attended the meeting because Cambridge asked me to send my CV and everything else. He attended the meeting with Gail Tashir and them. They refused. They refused to accept my name. They refused to accept, and Cambridge and them walked out. So that entire team or board, whatever the heck they call it, it is all PPP appointees, and that is why. And so they have, they have no control. It's a sham board because you don't even have to hear anything about it in terms of what exactly they're doing. But they're getting paid, I'm sure. And the government is that who's making these decisions. That is why they can come to Parliament and ask for all of this money. That board has nothing to do with anything. It's just a sham board. But they refuse. Just because they refuse to allow the opposition to participate in this thing that they could asking for this government to come together with this border issue. It's the same
Foreign
thing.
Relations Committee.
That's why the Foreign Relations Committee that they didn't have. They had one meeting, but here I want the Bobisians, Bobese folks. They've got cricket in their blood. So I'm gonna make an analogy. Here it is. You know what this comes down to? You're on a cricket team, and the captain decide that he's gonna make all the decisions and the plans for the when you're opposition, you're playing a series or you're playing against another team. He or she decide you will only go and take half of the team members and y'all go in a corner and plan it, and the other half are not part of any plans in terms of how you're gonna go play in the field. So when you go in the field to play now, you completely lost. You are not part of the team, and that's what they've done. They've taken their half of the team. They come up with this motion, and the rest of the half, which is the opposition that represents half of the population of this country, was not
Correct.
involved, and that's all that Arby Norton was saying, and even proposing, even giving them a way out, proposing to say, well, okay, let's go back, and we would like to be part of it. No, it's only their half of the team. They're making all the plans, but they expect the entire team to go out there and support them and perform, and you don't even know what they're doing.
Yes, Doc. Thank you. And while we're at it and we're looking at, because I wanted to inject something for the Barbicians and by extension all of Guyana to recognize and to remember 3 months after passing the biggest budget ever, these people without shame went back to the National Assembly for over $50 billion. And the only reason they give for wanting this rest of money is to continue the works that they already started. What are the works that they started? But we're going to get back to that, Camraj. Yeah, Vince, you want to say something?
No, I just laugh because
No, no, no.
these,
It's
these
very
guys are
laughable. It's
it's
very, very
yeah,
laughable.
because
Good.
I could talk. Imagine, I mean, the silliness of this all, the silliness of it. There's no part of the world, no place on this planet do you hear any budget where 60% of it goes into infrastructure? No part of the world. It's 60%. But guess, we all know where that 60% of this budget goes into
Yeah, but
1% of their friends and family. So that's what the whole scam is, to put money. And that's why, hey, by the way, not cutting you, Cheryl, and I said Cheryl Norris.
yeah, go on. It's all right.
What look, we've seen it again happen when I saw it in the newspapers today. They're saying that this gas to shore project, they've now extended it. It says it's not going to be done until the second quarter of next year, and it was supposed to have been done this year, around June. So
That
and then
might be that might be a blessing in disguise.
well,
Because
but
when the government changes, the
yeah.
corrections will be made.
Well, that's true, but they're wasting. It's again, it's one of those scams because they don't know what the hell they're doing. They can't even put up a lantern post. They can't even put up a lantern post around George, and all the lantern posts falling out. A simple thing like that. And so here they are with this thing now. It's extending until because they did not do a feasibility study. Jack, the only feasibility study. It's a no-brainer. So that's the imagine and let me. This here is important too. When Patterson, when the coalition was in office, this project was slated to be to cost around $700 million. Guess what? What is the tab right now? And it's going to continue going over 2 billion. It has more than tripled since they took office.
Wow.
That is what's going
Wow.
on.
Well, a line that Kemraj would normally use, it is easier for them to siphon off
That's
the
right.
money.
Here it is a well-known political fact and economic fact. A lot of people have written about it. I got a couple articles in my new Foreign Affairs magazine that talks about this thing. I'll be sharing it around with my AFC executive.
Yeah.
But it is massively where the siphoning happens is various through it is through contracts. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
contracts,
Correct.
especially for infrastructural works, you can never know the
Exactly.
value of it. You can have a general sense of what it is if you, but this government do not go to the genuine quantity surveyors or the engineers and so on and come up with, okay, steel will cost this, cement will cost this, and it will be $700 billion, like what David Patterson had done in relation to that project. And an international team of experts doing it. You got to pay them some money. You got to pay them a couple $1 million, right? But you get a genuine item by item, 100
Yeah.
pages and more as to how much this thing can cost. And they even take in for inflation and all of that. What we
But
got,
that's how you get value for money.
that's right. And what we got here now is that them boys want, and they just even tell the contractors, I know of it. They tell the contractors, look, I'll even charge the what would it call the engineer's estimate is $600 million. Y'all put up $300-400 million more. So you bid, and when you bid, you're gonna get a $400 million extra. 1/3 or about half of which will go to the government officials.
Wow.
Yes, that is what they've done.
Wow.
And it is thievery, daylight thievery. And then these fellas, knowing that they got to give all of that money back and so on, they gonna do substandard work. And that is
Yep.
why the minute rain falling like it falling now, potholes scattered by the millions on some roads all across the place. And
But then they
damn,
bring them back, Cameron. Then they bring them back to do
yes,
it for more money.
But
yeah.
but
And that is what has
Kemraj,
happened to the $57 billion here, Norris.
yeah.
The government, because it's elections year, also want to make this year a ribbon cutting year. The people that they're going to in the villages now, I understand, they ain't turning up because they're fed up with them and they know that they're thieving. Okay, in quarantine especially. They went a couple of places in quarantine, hardly people turning up. And even if they turn up, it's grievance upon grievance. And the Barbicians murdering the hell out of them. So what
And
they
I
do now?
understand
All right.
the same thing happens when they go into the indigenous communities also.
All right. So what they want now is to spend another 57 billion. They're gonna hand it out probably. A big set of that is for the cash grants that they said that they got another 12,000 or 13,000 people more that must get some money and so on. But that is what they want to do, and they make it a big party kind of thing. And they're gonna say, well, you see, we're giving you all monies. And then they're gonna cut ribbon. They want to go and cut ribbon all over the place. A little school here, a little bridge there, whatever. And so this 57 billion will go towards that kind of thing. But the people have seen through them. and the
Correct.
mismanagement by the PPP of our monies. The PPP can't see money. They got plenty people inside of that PPP. Soon as they see money, they want them, and they want them all. That is how they stay.
Wow. Just that. Vince, I'm going to come back to you
Yeah, yeah,
with
that's
a
okay.
specific question just now. But I want the female here, Camille, to share with the people of Barbados and by extension Guyana the reality is because the PPP is claiming that all this money they must spend, all this money is circulate, and things nice, life nice. As a woman, as a mother, right? As a parent, share with us your thoughts on cost of living and how much nicer things there nowadays as compared to times past. Because the PPP claiming that Guyanese get nice time now under them because money circulates. Go ahead, Camille.
She got to take it off of
You
mute.
got your
You
mute. You
gotta
got your
unmute your
mute.
mic, Camille.
Place your mute out. Cox your mute.
I
Yeah.
thank you. Thank
Good.
you for that question, Norris. And things are nice. It's very, very bloomy. It is so bloomy that chicken now is $660 a pound
Mm.
Six hundred
from
and sixty
three
dollars.
hundred and six, 340, $360. Now it's 306 $660 a
Listen,
pound. That's how bloomy it is. It is so bloomy that sugar, 4 pounds of sugar now is $580 for four
Mm.
pounds of sugar. That's how bloomy it is. It is so bloomy now that 2 eggs is $100 for
Wow.
2 eggs. It and some places when you go you can have 1 egg for that $100.
Mm.
That's how bloomy it is. It is so bloomy now that a pound of cheese is
Camille,
one
hold on, hold
thousand.
on, hold on. If one egg for $100 and 30 eggs in a tray is $3,000 for a tray egg,
That's right.
Cameras, Mama's right?
You're right. Yeah, you're right. $3,000.
It's $3,000 for one tray egg.
There are some shops that when you go to them, you will pay less than that $3,000. But if you're buying eggs, like say I can just afford to buy $200 egg, I will definitely just get 2 eggs. And if I really search, I might get three.
So,
But what
Camille,
about
what you're saying,
what about
Camille?
rice and the other staples and so on, Camille? I go to the supermarket with Sita. I don't even check the prices, but I'm certain because the
Um,
bill always come up big, big, big.
That might be a good thing, Cameras, kind of person might raise.
So, Camille, what you're saying is that the only people who could afford to get something decent to live are these contractors who making all the millions.
Yes.
Your friends and families.
well, that's right. That's right.
We,
It is
I have
so
spoken to some families.
it is so
Vincent, I
Mm-hmm.
have spoken to some families from Bobby's, and they're shame for talk
Mm-hmm.
publicly because I beg them to come on the video and talk how
Right.
they punishing. They don't want to come, but they're telling you this is what we got to do. And a number of them can't make 2 meals a day. They cannot. And the clothing, the shoes, the other expenses for transportation for the children to get to school, a number of other things. They barely, I don't know how they're surviving. And a number of them told me too that they used to survive on the remittances from overseas. But that
but that's
remittance,
not
like
coming
now,
anymore.
exactly, is
It's not
halted.
coming.
Trump has created all kind of problem for them people over there and so on. So a lot of them can't work, and I don't know the economics from his tariff and all of that have created loss of jobs, especially small businesses in America, and a lot of them are unemployed now. So the
And
remittance,
you gotta pay more on more to send money now. You
that's
gotta pay
right.
more just because of the tariff and stuff
All
like that.
kinds of
You gotta
things.
pay more.
So it is exceptionally difficult. But again, it's the mismanagement where the money ought to go to the people of Guyana, as
Yes.
Chetty Jagan would have said and Janet Jagan would have said. Jagdale says, no, we got to put it to infrastructure and so on.
Yep.
And that is why you get
Well, well,
Um,
the people,
Cameron,
I guess,
Norris, before we used to pay uh, two packs of sausage, the small packs of sausage for $500.
yeah.
The other day, I went to the supermarket and I had to turn to the person next to me and say, sausage raise? A pack of sausage now is $340. Three
No,
hundred and forty dollars for a
you
pack of
probably
sausage.
you probably mistakenly pick up calabrese. That's the
I am
that's
telling you, it
that's
is
the expensive
sausage.
one, right?
No, sausage.
But
And that
our
we used to
people,
pay two for $500.
yeah. Now, how does the average person, the average Guyanese, really make it? Vince, coming to
Yeah.
you
Mm.
on the topic of, I know the PPP government care about us so much that they're now taking themselves to the appeals court to appeal a matter that they should have been pushing in terms of protecting the people of Guyana and our environment. Excessive flaring is taking place, and it is happening like breeze at will. When you look at those things, and you look at the international extraction guidelines, as you know it, Dr. Vince, and you compare those with the Environmental Protection Agency's guidelines, where are we today, and how safe are we as a people with all this extraction taking place?
It's dangerous and it's a very callous and uncaring by this government. Let me go back with there are two separate things here. As far as the EPA guidelines is concerned, it's solid. Okay, as a matter of fact, when I was at the EPA, I had brought in a attorney to rewrite the act to make it a little bit more specific because we wrote it in 1996. The oil and gas wasn't there, but it had a broad, you could have broadly covered. It is the people who manage how you implement the law. When under the administration, everything that you talked about there, flaring under the coalition when I was there was prohibited. Exxon signed up to that. Dumping of water, toxic water. When you produce the water, it comes up with temperature that are almost high as 3 times high as the ocean. It has toxic materials such as lead and you name it, mercury. But on top of that, it has radioactivity. Instead of re-injecting the water, you talk about the international standard, you re-inject the water from where it came. You know what they're doing? What they're doing now is they're dumping the water into the ocean. The other thing that they're doing, the environmental impact assessment, which is the Bible of the industry, the EIA, you do not ever exceed that, or else you would be shut down in other countries in the United States. We would shut them down. We have done that when I was here in the United States. The EIA, for example, for LISA 1, it says thou shalt not produce above 100,000 barrels per day because your safety limit, because these things, you have to produce safely. Your safety limit is 120,000 barrels per day. So If they don't even want you to come close to it, say you set a limit of 100,000. Do you know what these people are producing at NARS on that one well on that one project? 165,000 barrels per day, and they've done that throughout all the
Wow.
project. So they're producing way above the safety limit, which means that you're enhancing the possibility of causing an accident. And if you cause an accident, there is no guarantee to cover that spill, which is what we have in place, which is what this has been over the past several days. The fight
Let's
over.
just say, for the sake of argument, the PPP does not know what the safety limit is.
It's in the EIA. I have talked about it over. They did overturn everything that we had in place, everything that we had in law. They deliberately removed them. All them things I tell you about, they removed them from the law. They were in the permit. They were in the so Norris. Here's the lawlessness, Norris. Here's the lawlessness. If you go read the EIA, which is law, it says you cannot produce above 100,000 barrels per day, and the safety limit is 120. So even if we go to 120, do you know what they're doing? They're producing at 165,000 barrels per day because of greed. They're breaking the law.
Now, now, the environmental impact assessment would have been clear on those things.
Absolutely.
So, to both you and Kemraj Vince, let's now talk about, because you spoke about the water not being re-injected, the water being dumped. This is it. A lot of our missions that catch fish for a living, Kemraj. Now, when this water with all these chemicals, toxins, and stuff is dumped into the ocean, what is the environmental impact negatively, Vince? And to Kemraj, explain to us what going to happen to them fish now.
Well, let me. It's easy. Again, go read. If you go read, and this thing is so blatant, Norris. It is in the EIA. You know what the EIA says? Dumping that water will kill millions of fish eggs. Millions of. Well, if you kill the fish egg, you can't produce no. I am not making this go. If the EIA and these people would go and talk about it on the EIA when they go and because they got to go to public to explain the EIA. It's in the EIA. It says that, and they've said it. It kills millions of eggs, of fish eggs. So if you don't have fish eggs, how are you going to make fish? And it's not a case where we're guessing this thing. We've seen over the
They
past
can do,
7 years.
they can do like them Chinese, they make plastic fish.
No,
They can do it.
you're
No, no,
probably
let's be
right.
serious. Let's be serious here, Norris. The
No,
Fishermen's Association of Rosignol, of number 66 Village, and a number of other places, the coca heads as we call them, all across
Yeah.
the country. They have indicated that there is a diminution of the fishing catches that they used to have as against what is happening now. You know? So now the thing is less than quarter of what they used
yep,
to catch before. And it is obvious that when the EIA was done and that regulation was made, it was scientifically done to the
yep,
extent of saying, please ensure that the water is not discarded into the ocean, but is captured somewhere and so on, so that the toxicity and whatever else and poison and so on will not affect, especially these spawning areas, the fish eggs, millions and millions of very tiny things. But this government don't care one hell. That is why it could have passed a bill called the Oil Pollution Prevention Bill with all the wickedness and obfuscation and confusion in it that Vincent
yep,
Adams has so brilliantly written about. And so, to that extent, the protein that we used to have for our children in the coastland has been made less because of the fish catch. It is far less. I know of that being a fact. And the fish that comes out, corriman, mullet, this, well, that is inland water fish, but whatever else, gilback and so on, the catches are all less and less and less. And when you have big people like Pretty Paul Company and the Gopis and whatever, they themselves have been telling the government that we want to get into other business because this fishing business can fish up we companies. And
Yeah,
no,
but
they went to the government, the agriculture ministry, and they begged them that they want other things. A lot of the small boat operators and so on. The thing has a direct connection with our protein intake as a people, and we deny our people protein. The best protein is fish, and all the shrimp and whatever seafoods. We are going to be made even worse off as a nation, as it were. And so,
but
to
look at
that
this,
extent, then there is a direct impact on the
but
education
look
of
at
our children and so
but
on,
look yeah.
development, everything. But they don't want it. They want the money. And they take the money through a variety of cronyism and they enrich themselves. They get 6, 7 houses. Some of them get hotel. Some of them get all kind of thing. And some of them get them in Russia.
But
Look at this, comrade. The
maybe before you get in, just to add to, okay,
yeah,
even if the small amount that is still there, all this water has mercury, lead.
Yeah.
The fish absorb those things through their skin. We've got some issues even here in the United States. Mercury is the
Yes.
easiest. A lot of salmon
Right.
and stuff got mercury in it because of depending on where it's at. So even the little bit that you're probably catching, and that may dwindle
it's
sometime later because
contaminated.
absolutely. So that is contaminated. So when you eat, you eat,
That's it.
you basically eating poison. And let me this EIA, like I said, it's the Bible. You know how long an EIA normally would take in a regular country? Under these guys, it probably overnight. It put an EIA would sometimes take years because it's scrutinized by every single scientist that there is. It's the most scientific document that gives you all of the details, how you're going to operate, what are the risks, the contaminants, and how are you going to mitigate against it. So here we've got EIAs. We're doing it because the law says it, but then we're not following the law by implementing what it says. Lawlessness.
No, it is quite clearly the case where, and that is why I still want you to emphasize the point that you made so brilliantly, Vince, about that bill in which the
Yes.
responsible party, although
Yes.
they said that the responsible party will be responsible for damages,
It,
what
it's
it
yes.
is when you compare the unlimited liability
It
parent company
okay.
guarantee as against, because even some people that I went out with last night, they still don't get a grasp of it, because although the law says that, what the law does not do is to make Exxon Mobil the company that will be liable to get and
He,
find the money, even if EPGL will not find it.
Camarade, sometimes I want to call it a scam, but I believe it's sheer ignorance. Nandala has proven to me is the dumbest lawyer that I have ever seen. He cannot be. No, I'm telling you, this here it goes beyond reasonableness with this man. So here's what the responsible party says. Okay, and he and Jaglio with his foolishness, this nonsense about reading out a list of everybody and saying, well, okay, now we've expanded, we've included the cook on the ship, the captain, and he said, well, well, guess what? Guess what, folks? The act, the law of Guyana, it says it's a basic principle internationally. It's called the polluter pay principle.
That's
And
right.
what that says, I don't care if you drop from Mars, I ain't have to know your name. You pollute, you gotta pay for it. So for them to come up with this idiocy to say, well, we've expanded it by listing. So that's the responsible party, the person who pollutes. So here's what happens. Here's the crux of this thing. All of these major companies, such as Exxon, what they do, they insulate themselves from liability by forming a small company, which
Exactly.
is called a subsidiary that has no assets.
And
And that's
limited
what they did.
liability.
That's what to take on their liability. That's what they did with the MGL. So when I arrived at EPA and they brought the permit, I said, wait a minute. So if we got an oil spill, who's going to pay for it? Oh, don't worry that we would never walk away. I said, put it in writing that you would never walk away. So now they're coming up with all kind of, well, I'm going to get Tillerson, who was the president, the big president of Exxon, to come and talk to President Granger. I said, well, you could get God. You will not produce a single barrel of oil unless we get a parent company guarantee from Exxon because you don't have any assets. And here's the other thing that every single Guyanese ought to know. We talk about Exxon, we believe they're rich and everything. Exxon name is not on any document.
It is not a responsible party.
No, their name Exxon is free and clear. It's the
That's right.
EMTL, which is this child company. Name is on everything. So what we did with that unlimited parent company guarantee is put it into law. So Exxon signed off to it. They accepted it, and that's the
That's
big
right.
difference.
Yeah.
When we left office, this government decided to cancel that. And guess what they did? They were so stupid because they've got the authority to remove and change permits as please. But I think it's so arrogant. They left that clause in there that says it's unlimited coverage, but they added their own clause to say that that guarantee has to be limited. So here you've got two clauses now. Clause 14.5, which is what we wrote to say unlimited, and they've got clause 14.3 to say it has to be estimated. Well, it's impossible for you to estimate what an oil spill will do and what the cost is, right? So that's what it took to court where two citizens sued them, Collins and White. And of course, we know the Judge Kissoon ruling, how the Judge Kissoon ruling was said how submissive they are. They're putting this country at great risk, how they're kowtowing to X. I mean, if you read that thing, I mean, they should have been resigning. They should be based on what Judge Kissoon said. So instead of taking their licks and walk away, they decided to join Exxon, go all the way to the Supreme Court. That's what Nandala did, to join Exxon in appealing against the people. But now election time coming, they come up with this scam to say, well, okay, now we have agreed with liability, with unlimited. One day they said, look, this Nandalal guy, that's what I'm saying. It's beyond it. This guy, if you listen to this last weekly thing, at minute 48, he says, oh, there's no limit. They're reading this thing. There's no limit in this bill. And then at minute 52, he said there's no such thing as unlimited liability. Here, this guy, listen to what he said. He said, there is no limit, no cap. And then he says, this does not limit liability at all, none. We said no cap on liability, none. Wherever the damage flows, liability runs with the damage. You know what a stupid man go in Parliament after they've said that it has no limit and no cap? You know what this man go in Parliament and say, listen to this. You know, these guys are, this man go into Parliament and say that no limit and no cap does not mean unlimited. I am not kidding you. That's what this man go into Parliament and say. No such thing as liability. But getting back to Cameron in terms of responsible party. So the responsible party says that whoever does the damage, that's what the law says, you have got to cover the cost. And that is why we say, well, okay, EMGL does not have any assets, so they can't cover the cost. So for us to have that financial assurance that is required by law, the only way that we would be satisfied, you have no assets, you have got to, Exxon, you have got to sign off on this thing. That's what they did. So guess what they're saying now? Well, we have it we putting it in the bill. Well, you didn't have to put it in the bill. The law is there already to say that the responsible party has to cover it. So they're not going with the parent company guarantee.
When people ain't got time with those laws.
So how, if you get a spill, who is going to cover it according to you? You could put whatever you want into writing. What they're going to do, if you got a spill, the responsible party is going to say, well, here, I can't afford it. I declare bankruptcy. I am
That's right.
gone. And
Yeah.
Exxon is gone. And then Guyana is going to be stuck. Well, here is the consequences of it that people have to hear. Beside the fish and everything else that we talk about, the Macondo spill in the Gulf costed 145 billion US dollars. Our national budget is 5 billion US dollars. So if we get a spill, and that's not even counting probably the consequences of the other countries around us, it would wash away Trinidad. Trinidad would be the first country to go from north to south and its whole east coast. So guess where is the second country? You sure you want to hear? Venezuela coast. So if you want to give Mudaro a reason to come after us, not is shooting, this little shooting of trees and all kind of thing we hearing going on now, you flood Mudaro coast with oil and see what's gonna happen. So those are the consequences.
Um,
So all of the money that we're getting that people are talking about, it would be gone in a day, and this country would be totally bankrupt completely. So
we
that's what's
got
going.
about 5 minutes. We got
Oh
about
yes.
five minutes to program time,
All right,
right?
good. I want to make sure. So here's what this whole bill is about. The crux of it, okay, is to get rid of Judge Kissoon's ruling. And here's a sentence that I had here. It's an
Yeah.
unrelenting assault on democracy by this cabal skin of the teeth single seat majority, emasculating the judiciary by fiat of the party's authoritarianism way. And nothing was more despicable than how Nandalal did it. Here's what Nandalal said to prove that that's what he was about. He said in Parliament, must we be allowed to remain frustrated by an ill-informed decision by the court? It would be highly irresponsible to leave that decision on the
An
public record.
ill-informed decision.
That's what I'm saying. It proves, and then he says this decision distorts the law of the country. We cannot let it stand. So that's what he said while he was debating that bill. So it shows clearly that their only intent was to remove the law of the book through Parliament rather than going through the courts. This to me, and it was contempt as far as I'm concerned on his part.
Quickly, quickly before we wrap up. From January to now, fish price has been fluctuating and spiraling upward, Kemraj.
Oh, yes, of
How
course.
how does that affect the poorer class of Barbicians?
Oh, big time, Norris. That is what I'm telling you. They're telling me that they can't eat 2 meals a day, and then the quality of the meal, because the fish protein content, fish curry or whatever, fry fish or whatever, they're not eating it like they used to. And that is what keeps our children growing properly and all of that. It affects their brain development. It affects their nutritional, their constitution, their body functions, everything. Because
Yeah.
you do not get too much of rice and rice and rice ain't good. You gotta get the fish and all the vitamins and so on that comes from it and so on, and plus the protein. But they're not getting it. And plus the prices are so high, as you rightly read it, because of the reduction in production as a result of the oil processes that Vince talked about.
Yes.
So we
And
are
look at
getting double whammy, double banged on the face, slapped and
yeah,
so
but
on.
look at another thing, Kemraj, quickly. A lot of those people depend on the fish industry for
That's
their
right.
livelihood.
That's
So
right.
when the industry is not producing as it used to, now you don't can't eat as you should.
That's right.
Then now the industry is not producing as it used to. So how these people in Barbados really surviving? That depends on it.
Well, it is a lot of the fishermen have come off fishing now. They got to go and do other things. Plenty of them. I'm telling
What
you.
am I do?
Too much
Cocaine?
forage. Well, they gone and they planting rice. Some of them gone and turn carpenter and mason and so on because the construction industry and so on. But that lessens an aspect of our economic sector called the fishing industry, which
Yeah.
is supposed to help the nutritional needs of Guyanese, whether
Of the
you're
people.
mason or you're carpenter, whatever, because you still got to eat food. And the producer of the food has lessened, and the amount of fishes have lessened. So it has an impact, a huge impact, sectorally and even nutritionally for these ordinary citizens
It
out
is
there.
very sad because now the fisher folks with the boats going out there, they're buying a standard set of gasoline to go out there that they use all the time, but they're catching less fish,
That's
which
right.
means it's automatic that the fish price got to go up.
Absolutely.
If quickly, let me talk about fish. I forgot this part. This is really important, Norris. In that same bill, guess what? If you get a spill, right? If you get a spill, they set up what is called an assessment board. So
Yes.
this board now, what this board is, the board evaluates. Let's say a fisherman comes to them and say, I am damaged because I can't fish anymore. This is what's going to work. This board is going to decide how much money they get. Guess what who this board comprises of? A member of the EPA, a member of the Ministry of Natural Resources, and guess who's the third member? Exxon. So Exxon is deciding how much liability they're gonna pay. There's no representation for the fishermen. So and guess what? They say, well, okay, they have an opportunity. If they don't like it, they can go to court. So they're sending this poor fisherman to go to court
The
against
man will
Exxon.
make money by fishing.
That's right. They want this poor person to go to court by. So that's their whole strategy. This whole fisherman now has got to go to court. You know that they can't compete with Exxon. They don't have money to go to court, and they're just gonna get frustrated and walk away.
I think one of the things, Camraj, we have to commit to the people of Berbice and by extension Guyana that these things that are affecting them presently as instituted by the PPP, we are going to fix upon our return to government.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yep.
And I hope that Barbicians understand what the defects of the bill are so that we now can remedy it. Because the PPP not going to remedy that. They're not going to do any remedies whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they're going to only make further and further defects to affect the Barbicians, fishermen, and so many more. But we have to get rid of them like we did in 2015. And I'm hoping, of course, when the campaign starts and so on, that we're going to make all these arguments. But start understanding it, Barbicians. It is fundamental that you understand. Because Barbicians are a big source of support for the PPP. And they themselves know, that is, the Barbies supporters, realize that that might have been a mistake. And please, we are giving you the arguments here.
Yeah.
And this is scientific. These are rational. These are reasonable arguments. And we're not lying here. That's the truth. And Barbicians know it because they're feeling it through their belly.
Hey, by Norris, before we leave,
Yeah,
because I need some advertisement here, okay?
yeah.
At 1 hour, exactly 1 hour of Nandalal's diatribe this week, guess what Nandalal says? He pushed his foot in his mouth with a big bluff, which is what I've been calling. Here's what the man said. He said these guys would not, meaning talking about the opposition, these guys would not sit down with me and debate publicly. I'm prepared to do that. Let us go on
Wow.
TV. They would never do that because I would like to do that. I want to be this thing. We got to put pressure in. I want them
Maybe
to
you should
debate.
invite him.
Oh,
We're gonna have to invite you and him on the same program, Vince.
I want, because I'm asking everybody. The Kaito News Rally put it out there. So I want all the social media and everybody to put it out there that this man has asked for a debate and he cannot back down now. He's got to show up. He's got to show up.
Correct.
All right.
All right. So
So here,
we're
one
gonna
last thing, because again, we got to expose it. It's going to take me just a few seconds. This man went as far. You see, when they can't match people's intellect, they come up and they try to besmirch your character. We all know Melinda Janke, right? This
Yeah.
man came and weighed into Melinda Janke. Here's what he says. He said the EPA Act, which Melinda Janke is hearing, was passed by the PPP in 1996. So here's what he said. This was long before we ever heard about Janke, long before she accumulated anything about her environmental credentials, long before Janke came on the scene, long before anyone ever heard of a person named Janke. These things were put into the act. Would you want to, did any one of you here want to guess who wrote the EPA Act?
I know. I am well aware of it. It was
Well, not you,
Melinda.
Cameron. Would anybody believe that Melinda Janke wrote the EPA Act?
really.
Yes,
She did
the
it.
same man. He
And
said
then
that she was nowhere wrong.
And then he will,
it is
how is the
he
question
who
was
wasn't
nowhere
around.
around?
Anil Nandalal was nowhere around when that was happening.
This is he was nowhere. But so that is we've got to expose these type of that's this man said this woman was nowhere, and this is the woman who wrote the act. As a matter of fact, what had happened. And by the way, when they're saying that they're the one who created the EPA was forced upon us after the OMI spill in
That's right. That's right.
1995.
Yes,
So
yes,
what President Jagan did was they went and they brought in a consultant to wrote the act, and when the act came, that was
It was a
determined
bad
to
act.
be a piece of crap. And the
Yeah.
IDB brought Melinda Janke on board to
Yes.
rewrite that act. I know this man is talking his foolishness about Melinda Janke and been nowhere wrong. She had no environmental credentials. That's the kind of this guy is just vicious. The guy
that's
can't
right,
match with
as you
you.
put it decently. Well, folks, we had a wonderful program. Um, we must say a special thanks to Dave's Television and to the people of Borbies for entertaining us. It's always a pleasure interacting with you. We're always here if you want to reach out to us. I guess most of you or all of you know how to get onto Camraj and Dr. Vince. Camille lives in Borbies, and we're always here to be of service to you folks. And we encourage you to continue listening to our programs every week as we go forward so that you can be better informed and in a better position to make proper decisions that will affect your lives, your children's lives, and your grandchildren's lives going forward. Thank you very much for being a part of us, and feel
One
free
thing
to.
before we leave, Lawrence, um,
Yes, sir.
the general public is invited to our barbecue on
Yeah.
lime on Monday, the
Oh, yes.
26th. Barbecue is served from 12. See you
Independence Day
there.
barbecue
Let's
at the
come
AFC.
out. Let's come out and enjoy ourselves together. Let's celebrate our independence. That is
In
at the
style.
Alliance to Change office on the railway embankment.
Yes. 26 Railway Line, Georgetown. So,
Okay.
all are invited. Those that get tickets already, quite a number of people already have tickets. So, even if you don't have a ticket, extra barbecue will be prepared. So, come out and let's celebrate our independence anniversary in style. On Monday, it's a holiday. All are invited.
But y'all don't want me money. I donate a bunch of tickets, but nobody even contact me to know how.
Well,
Oh
We
yeah,
don't
Camille,
want
Camille, you
your
better
tickets,
contact
we
him.
want the money.
Camille, yeah,
Camille,
Camille is going
Camille,
to
give
do
me a
that
call.
for
Give me a call.
Okay, I'll call you. I'll call you as soon as we get out.
All right. A
Yeah.
very good night to all Babishans. Thanks for
Good
listening.
night and thank you for
you. Yeah.
listening.
Good night to everyone, and do join us again next week.